open the Rules Committee. We have two people absent. John Bout was absent, and so is Anita Epperson, but we do have three, and we have a quorum. So we're ready for prayer, so let's pray. Our Father, who art the hope of all the earth, remember us in love and guide us by thine wisdom. We ask thee to grant blessings upon thy servants, our community leaders, our county mayor, the commissioners, the city mayor, and the councilmen. Bless us with wisdom, goodness, and truth. May law and order, justice, and peace prevail. Defend our liberties, preserve our unity, protect our community. To the honor of thy holy name, amen. I do want to mention a couple of things. I'm not for sure. Commissioner Anderson thought that Anita's mother had passed away. We also, Scott Johnson's dad, Virgil Johnson's passed away for sure. That was in the.
And Judy Gamble.
And Judy Gamble as well.
The Fair Board for all those years.
Bedford County Fair Board.
She was big.
And his husband, Paul, runs a finance company there. So we've lost several prominent people as well. But I certainly had some. I didn't know about Anita's mother until tonight, but I did want to mention Virgil Johnson because I've known the Johnson family since they moved here in 70 or so. I was coaching up Central High School when Kurt came through, and Scott and Brett. So I knew him. I knew he was real active in the Optimist, but I knew him in the quarterback club because I served in that club with him for a long while. But he was commissioner in the 6th District. He lived over at the foot of Rogers Hill on Dell Avenue. I guess he's still living there. I don't know. For years and years and years. But he did represent the 6th District in 2 terms. And as I said, very active on the celebration board, which is coming up. He served on that for years and years. So condolences to Scott Johnson and their family for passing of Virgil. He passed away, I think, Sunday. And the Anita Epperson's mother as well. But I wanted to mention those two. Okay, the first item on the agenda is approval of the July 18th, 2023 Rules and Legislative Committee minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We got a public comment period, and in the standing committees, I don't know if there was much of a problem with that. I've not ever denied anybody to speak, but it's good that we've got some kind of format to follow. We can still discuss this. It's put in here at this time, and I'll recognize you anytime, but if you want to go on and say something, or it's in here for public comment period. So it's open. The floor is open. If there's any public comment, or if you want to wait till an issue comes up you want to speak on, we can. That's what we've always done, and I would never not recognize somebody. On occasion, there's been one or two in the audience that started arguing against one another, and I tended to stop that because we weren't getting anywhere. But outside of that, most everybody we've always let speak once or twice, not much longer than that, particularly if there's argument going on. But is anybody would like to speak? It's public comment sections in here. Okay, seeing none. And if you want to speak anytime after any of these other things, that's fine. I'll recognize you. Okay, the next item is consideration of placing the August 8th, 2023 Commission minutes on the September 12th, 2023 Commission agenda.
Mr. Chairman, we placed that on the agenda without a recommendation.
Second.
Okay, you're going to have to, that's only two.
Only 2 of us here, that's right.
That'd be right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The next item is consideration of placing the notary applicants on September 12th, 2023 County Commission agenda as requested by County Clerk Donna Thomas.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the Veterans Report is included. They were fairly busy, but I hadn't misplaced it. Good. Very good. The main thing is the transport. There were 58 that were transported to the VA hospitals, and 89 came by the Veterans Office downstairs. Okay, is there any questions? I don't know if Mike's here. Mike Bruce is not here, so the chairman is not here, but is there a motion to approve?
Motion approved.
Second.
Okay. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, next is the community clinic report. I noticed that they started doing quite a bit with the dental people showed up, and one of those dentists was spent a number of hours there in the working. It seemed like it was 81, Dr. Foster. Anyhow, it's good. I mean, the dental clinic is expanded, and they had a volunteer physician that I think it said 81 hours, didn't it?
81.
So that's exceptional, and
Yeah.
and I think it was about the same on the medical side of it. So that's good. That additional physician there is able to expand and it's great service again, as I say every month, for our community. So that they're to be commended. Yes.
The doctor, they did come in twice for that,
Okay.
Friday.
Well,
They're
good.
trying to catch up.
Okay, well, great. I mean, that's, as I've already said, it's a great service for our community. Okay, any other questions or comments about the community clinic? They not only medical, but dental, and they're providing a big service for all our community. And next is the ag report. I think they did meet maybe last night.
Met last night. One update on here, we had the rolling gate repairs. And I talked to Commissioner Thomas about the rollers. Well, Rick Epperson fixed it. And he's on the board, and he said he could fix it. So he went out there with a couple of inmates, and instead of having to buy new rollers, we fixed what we had. And it worked great. Now, it worked out good for the fair. Also, our tractor PTO broke out there, and I want to thank Mark Clanton and the Highway Department. They came out there, got the tractor, and fixed it. I mean, you just can't beat Mark and those guys. And I'm having a hard time. It's a McKendree tractor. It's an off-size tractor. You can't find parts for it. So the maintenance guy looks at me and he says, I said, do what you can. And he did it. And and I want to thank them for that. I really appreciated that. Another thing that may not come up this month or next month, but the fair has got that trailer out there. So the trailer was being moved. The fair board is going to build a metal building out there for their office, a small building. And it may need to go through courthouse and property, and they'll sign it over to the county or whatever, but the ag board approved it unanimously. It gets that trailer out of there. It's going to be a nice looking building and it will look better. And then we're going to work together on the restrooms in the fall with the fair board to get out, working that out and maybe modeling that restroom to look like that building. So I don't know when. I know John T. Bubba sent Commissioner Sanders some stuff too on this, but I don't know if we need to rubber stamp it, but the fair board would sign it over to the county however Robert wants it. But basically, all we're wanting to do is remove the trailer, then put a metal building out there for the fair office. And I think it'll help the whole place and it will really help the fair.
How did the fair, what were the
The
reports? on
weather
there?
just really hurt them. I mean, every night you had some tractor
yeah.
pull rained out. I mean, it was just a disaster as far as the weather's concerned. So I think Saturday night was okay, but other than that, it pretty much rained every night of the fair, just about. And it's hard to get a turnout and have anything when you have the weather we've had.
Yep.
So it hurt us this year.
Any other questions for Commissioner Anderson? Okay, thank you for the ag report. Okay, old business is a resolution to amend the zoning resolution of Bedford County, Tennessee. It's been on there for a number of months, and I think, okay, it's,
Wait to hear back from them.
okay, so we'll,
Roll it another month.
Yep.
okay. The next item is public comment guidelines. I think we've talked a little bit about that, but we'll talk about it again because we've had that area there for public comment period, and we've had none, but the
Did you
commissioner,
all get a copy? Suzanne sent out what I had typed up.
I think so. I think, we got Rose and we got another public comments, and it's one of these two.
This one.
Okay. Public comments.
And that's it.
Okay. This one is just the public comment. And Suzanne can correct me, then this is both of them that I'll ask you if you approve it to send it to the county commission, and I'll, let me get on the mic.
Okay, yes, so they can record it.
The reason both of those on the one sheet are there, when I talked to John T. last, he said we need to change the agenda on, that we get to match the way that we should be doing it. And so, see if I can find that page. The old agenda, the main things were, to put in the public comment, which I know is number 6. I changed some of the wording on some of the others. There's just too many words. And then on, I think that's about it. There may be an attestment on some of them somewhere, but that's pretty much dropped now. So the only change pretty much on the agenda is just shortening the words and inserting number 6 on the public comments, which I believe everybody agreed to do after we approved the minutes.
So Commissioner Yockey, on the back page, this is the proposed agenda that we want to talk about. You give me a front page and a back page.
Yes.
Okay, and so what you're asking us to do is vote on this proposed agenda as part of our bylaws and send it to the full commission. Is that what we're being asked?
Yes, that's that's the first part.
Okay.
All right, and then the second part, I said I would type up and I used, and I think.
We got-
Public comments.
I believe that's all we got from here.
Suzanne and I took the 2 documents from the state on the public comment. And so we put all of the bullet points of that in what I'm fixing to read for you, just to cover it so that it's in our bylaws, and also to cover what we passed at the commission level that night, so that it's in there exactly what we're doing. John T. and Ginger did not get back to me on this, but it's written because of a prior conversation with Ginger. So within your motion, if you make one tonight, put within that, then subject to the attorney-client review on it. But let me read the public comment. It's pursuant to the TCA Title I, it's Chapter 44. Any person may address the Board of Commissioners on any business-related item on the agenda, either for or against. The commission agenda should be sent to the local newspapers or paper and posted on the county website at least 10 days prior to the Board of Commissioners monthly meeting. So that's when our regular agenda goes out anyway. This part, at least 48 hours prior to a meeting, the most current version of the agenda for the upcoming meeting and all documents involved will be available in the mayor's office by appointment for review. And I'll probably add right there at the end of that, if okay, and on the website, because it can be updated pretty fast too. And the reason that 48-hour one was in there is in case you had something that was added or 2 commissioners, wanted something, so. Number 4, each person wishing to address the commission shall complete the public comment form for each item for which that person wishes to speak, 1 form per each item discussed. 5, each person shall have 3 minutes per item in which to make their comments. 6, the chairperson of the commission will be responsible for the order of speaking and the timing of the speakers. And the reason I put that rather than kind of how we did it last time, 1 for, 1 against, Chad might not be the chairperson. And the flow of it is irrelevant in all this, as long as you get it done. 7, each person shall make their comments to the chairperson in a respectful manner. And so that covers all of the little bullet points. So there's nothing in there that excludes anybody from speaking on every item. If there's 100 people, we'll listen to them.
Okay, so based on what you've just told us on the public comment, you've taken the statute, and then you took from the comptroller his suggestions in there, and we've incorporated those suggestions
Yes.
and requirements from the statute into our bylaws.
Yes.
And now we're changing our bylaws to reflect that, as well as reflect the order of the agenda
Yes, sir.
on here. So those
Yeah.
are the two things we're talking about doing.
And the reason we needed to put our part in the bylaws is because in that statute, it says you can limit the number of speakers. You can do some other things, which we did not vote to do that night.
Okay? And that puts us, you feel that puts us in compliance, and the county attorney is good with it? And they're-
I have not heard back from Ginger, but according to our meeting before I started writing it,
Okay.
yes.
But you want us to also make this motion subject to the attorney-client
I think we need to be safe on that.
review? Okay. And if there are no objections by the county attorney, then we're ready to proceed and send it to the floor. And once we get to the floor, we will know if there's objections. We can modify it then, or?
Well, as long as we do it with that 48 hours and change
Okay.
what we have got, we will be okay.
Okay.
And I think some of them, I think Ginger's been away, but, so we've got that 2 days before to make
Okay.
sure that we get the things done.
Mr.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the one thing I would just caution is the wording of newspaper, and let's use news media, because we just went through a little period of time where we didn't have a newspaper, and it kind of threw us a little, that way we use news media, because now we're moving into the 21st century. We have online news media, we have streaming news media, so we do have some other local that I think, in using the word news media instead of newspaper.
My only suggestion would be the statute. If the statute says newspaper, then we have to comply with what the statute says, even though there isn't a newspaper.
Yeah. I don't know, she's
I
she'd be
think the
expert.
statute, and don't hold me to this,
Yeah.
Drew, I think it said newspaper, but there's nothing wrong with us putting
Maybe
in
put
parentheses
newspaper
and.
slash news
Okay.
media.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay,
let's do
okay.
that.
I think
Let's do
that's
that.
probably a
That's
good
idea
idea.
I just
anyway.
don't want to get us in the.
No, no.
Right.
That's a good point. That's a good
Good
point.
point.
All right. So, Commissioner Yaki, I'm sorry. Can we amend that to put newspaper slash news media in there? And where would you suggest we put that?
Yeah, that won't be that's not a problem. That'd be number two.
Under two.
Under two.
Okay.
Is news media 2 words?
Yes, it's 2 words.
Zoe's the only one I trust. I trust.
Okay.
So, I mean, first of all, I just want to say thank you to Commissioner Yaki for pulling all this together, sincerely. I agree with Commissioner Hooker. The other thing that I had a little bit of heartburn about was the 48 hours prior to the meeting, the most current version of the agenda for the upcoming meeting, and all documents involved be available in the mayor's office by appointment for review. So I guess from a tactical standpoint, or is it possible to make sure that everything's updated on the website as well? That's the number one.
Right.
That's the first question.
Right, and so that's what I put right at the end.
Website, okay.
Appointment for review and on the website.
Okay, and then the other question that I have is it possible, I guess the 48 hours, any changes prior to, in 48 hours kind of gives me a little bit of concern that may not be enough time to update the public.
It is.
The 40, at least, and I'll get Suzanne to send the 2 pieces of paper. That's taken straight out of those 2 pieces of paper.
Okay,
I think the only thing I changed would be then the last part so that it'd be available. It just kind of left it vague where it would be, and so that it's somewhere available in the mayor's office by
I
appointment.
wouldn't want this in the bylaws, but maybe we just as a policy, or as a general thing, we put it out on the Facebook account too, that way, that way people get in. There's many ways that we can get it out there.
We don't do Facebook. I don't do it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, yes, sir.
But
Chris, what?
Suzanne, make a note, just in both those sheets.
You had a question?
Everybody to compare.
Thank you.
Comment, you come up to see whatever.
I was just thinking that that statutory language actually says newspaper of general circulation. So maybe if you come up with some hybrid terminology that says newspaper of general circulation or its media equivalent, and that way you kind of cover what Commissioner Hooker was
Say that
trying to
again.
Newspaper of general
The
circulation.
newspaper.
Newspaper of general circulation or its media equivalent or local media equivalent, something like that.
We thought you were on vacation.
We thought you were gone.
What, news
Excuse
media
me.
equivalent?
It's local
Said you were
media
out of town.
Thought you was out of town.
Did you get back?
I'm back.
Okay, so you said newspaper of general circulation is what the statute, I believe, says.
Yes, it is.
And then you further said,
Or its local media equivalent. I think that might be a good way to,
Big word.
sorry.
No, that's fine, thank you. Looks like everybody's in agreement with that. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we're still here
Let's
on
make,
the-
let's make a motion to send it, or the county attorney agrees with it.
okay, the motion, if that's okay, is we're going to adopt the comment section. We're going to adopt the agenda section. We're going to adopt the language in 44.1. We're going to modify line 2 in 44.1 where we insert newspaper of general publication or its local media equivalent. And we're going to adopt line 3 amended to say, and on the website. And I think that covers all the points we had in place here. And with that, and lastly, it's subject to any attorney revisions that may come up, and we need to know those as soon as we can, prior to 48 hours at least, prior to
Probably
that.
next week. And I'll get Suzanne or I will shoot out an email.
And I would prefer, if we don't get any, if we do get some objection on some language, then I think we need to bring it back here in committee and not go to the floor and debate.
Yeah.
Let's bring it back to committee
Yeah.
and go from there. If that's okay with everybody. Okay. Then I'll make that in the form of a motion, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
Second.
there's a second. Any other questions? Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the next item is resolution to amend Article 3 of the zoning resolution of Bedford County. The purpose was to provide general guidelines for development of small private cemeteries on private property. That was the resolution here, and that's, the purpose is to provide general guidelines for development of small private cemeteries on private property. And it goes in, I'm not going into all of it, but there were 3 basic sections for private cemeteries. A was the goals, B was authority, which is through Tennessee Code Annotated 46-8-103, and then requirements were all there. And Chris, do you want to have any comments? You want to bring us how this came about and what's going on with the cemeteries?
Yeah, this will be the last resolution amendment that you guys will get before we present something for plan development. So
Okay.
this was the last thing that came to the planning commission. The reason this came about is that we have a minimum lot size in the county, which is 1 acre for the A1 zone properties. And so in the past, there's provisions that say that private cemeteries have to be approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals, but there's really not a lot of guidelines for that development. And of course, it's assumed that the lots would be at least 1 acre, because that is our minimum lot size for the A1 district. So we had quite a few people talk to us about the complications for a lot of people who want to have private cemeteries, but they don't want to dedicate an entire acre when there may be 3 or 4 people interred in the private cemetery, and that's a lot of acreage for that. The other thing is we wanted to, and we felt like that was a reasonable request. So I think the dimensional characteristics on what we proposed is 21,500 square feet, which is a little less than a half acre. But the main things we wanted to make sure was that if we're going to have private cemeteries, that they don't become the type of private cemeteries that we commonly see in these rural areas where we don't know who they belong to. There's a lot of cemetery plots that we don't know who's interred there. We've literally had subdivision development of late, and I'm going to say in the last 4 or 5 years, where the cemetery was just in an open field that had been row cropped for decades, and there was no sign of the cemetery, and so they've had to hire people to go out and do ground penetrating radar to locate the plots and then fence them off. And so, it's an issue. We have a lot of really, really old cemeteries in the area. And so what we want to do is, like, if we're going to continue to create private cemeteries, which people should be able to do on their land, we want to make sure that we know who they are, that they're platted and recorded. There's a deed recorded with it. We know exactly where they are. They're mapped. And so that in the future, we always going to know where those things are. And the other thing is, we want to make sure that people allow visitors who want to visit a family member in perpetuity. And so there needs to be a place to park for at least a couple of cars so that we can get them off of the road into a safe place, and so they're not staged on the road. Some of our county roads, as you know, are pretty narrow. So we just want to present a safe place for people to pull off the road and be able to visit. And so basically, family members are given an easement, a perpetual easement in this, and so from here on out. So all we want to do is just kind of clean that up. There's already provision in there for the BZA to approve these things. And so, typically, when they come to us, somebody's already passed away. And they never thought about how they were going to do it. They just knew that the decedent wanted to be buried on the farm or the property or whatever. And so we usually generally, we already pretty well know is if the BZA gets gets a plat and it meets all the criteria, the BZA must approve it anyway. So as long as they meet all these criteria, so generally speaking, we just like, okay, you got to go ahead and inter the person, go ahead and do it, and then here's what you need to do to present this so we can kind of clean it up. And that way we're not delaying funerals and things like that through this process. But this just presents a general set of guidelines so that this is done and that we respect these graves in perpetuity.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Director White, is this involving commercial cemeteries or is it just family cemeteries?
Well, what we've done here is we created a provision so that if a person decided to convert it to a commercial cemetery,
Okay.
then there's some provision here that tells you how that you can go about doing that.
That's all by the state, though. They license
It is regulated
that.
by the state, and it says that in there.
They have to have a bond, a perpetuity.
That's exactly right.
And then if it's a church, this shouldn't
exempt.
affect the church? Okay, good.
And it's exempted in here
Okay.
for churches.
So churches can continue with how they're doing it, but this is a private
This is
cemetery. So if we wanted to be buried right there, we'd have to have this acreage, we have to have the area to come to it
Mhm.
and park and make some security and
Yes.
okay. Good. Thank you.
Absolutely good. It's two old cemeteries out in the Flat Creek area. When I was growing up, started hunting, I ran into them. The Shook Cemetery, which is way back off the road between McFerris Place and Hasty Place. It was back, and then the Gowan one. And at one time, I went back to see it through there recently, and the cattle got in there and knocked the fences down. Oh, I cried. They'd knocked over stones and everything else. And when I was a boy, I could read it, and it was all fine. And then, 20 years later, I don't know if they do anything to that or not, but it's the old McGowan Cemetery. I haven't been back there in some time, but I'm hoping somebody has put a fence around it and cleaned it up. Because that's sacred ground. Absolutely. Yes, thank you.
Biff, you say it's been 20 years since you've been a boy?
Well, but since I've seen it.
Oh, okay, I got
No, I'm 74 years old.
Mr.
now.
Chairman, I move we accept the resolution and send to the full commission.
Second.
Okay, is any other questions? Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, the last item is bylaw revisions. Is that, bring us up to date on that?
I've got them to a point, and just for the committee's information, Biff's going to sit down with me tomorrow and go through them again. And as much as I hate to, I'm going to ask Chris White to look at my wording. So that will increase the pages twice. But I'm hoping next Rules and Legislative Committee, I have you a rough draft.
Great.
And there's, when you first look at it, you're gonna say, oh my gosh, but there were just things that needed to be moved to another section, and Biff's gonna have a stroke tomorrow when we talk, but,
It'll be okay. We'll sort through it.
but if we're gonna get it done, let's get it done right. And, so hopefully next month I'll have you a rough draft.
Thank you, Commissioner Young, for taking that on.
Hey, any other business, Mr. Brooks, do you have any update? You want to comment anything about the veterans? We had already gone through that when you got in
Sorry,
here.
Commissioner.
But that's okay. I thought you might.
I do have an
Update
update. 14th of August was the last day for what was known as the PACT Act, which was legislation signed by President Biden. And we've had a horde of people coming in trying to get the last minute updates on all that. I got to put it out into the media into the communities. I got 5 communities that I deal with, that we are still going to be doing those claims, but it will not be backdated to the date that the president had signed off on it. So that's an update on that. And you see that our numbers, I know, can stay consistently high, and we're going to have that probably for the next 4 or 5 months coming in. That's all I have, Commissioner.
Okay, thank you. And I don't know if we need bylaw revisions. We need to take any action on that. I know we're going to defer it.
Yeah, let's defer, if that's okay.
Okay, no, it's fine. We need to take action on that, I
Yeah,
guess.
let's defer until next month.
Okay. Assume that's what we're going to do, but I guess we need to vote on
I
it.
think you're
Is
right. I'm
there
going to make a
second?
motion to defer.
Okay.
Second.
Second. Okay, any other discussion or question? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. So it has been deferred. I
Yeah.
just assume that we
Right.
need to make sure it's been voted on. Any other business to come before the Rules Committee?
One
Okay.
point, Mr. Chairman. For the past 16 weeks, we have been working on our broadband accelerant program. Tomorrow concludes our program of 16 weeks with ECD. We've put together a Connect Bedford to find a way that we can become the first rural county in Tennessee that is fully committed to enabling high-speed broadband to everybody here. We are making our presentation to the broadband ECD people tomorrow. I want to thank Ms. Watkins for helping us, Commissioner Pinson, Commissioner Boutwell, who else was Tracy Strossner co-chaired this, Commissioner Pinson, Chris White is back there, and John Carney. As they've all been instrumental in this room, have been instrumental in putting this together. We have really worked hard, and it's really a nice presentation we're going to have. And Van Ayers. I want you to get ready, because this will be there's 2 sets of grants that are coming. One is the middle mile, last mile, or like we like to call it, the middle mile, last acre, to make certain we have our farms. And John Teague from the Agricultural Extension Service has been tremendous in what he's done, and our school system. But these are 70-30 grants. They will pay 70%. We have to come up with 30. The BEAD grant, which will come later next year, are 80-20 grants. They're paying 80, but we got to have 20. If you recall, we received a $9 million grant last year, and we put up $700,000. If we do full implementation on connecting everyone in Bedford County, we can't do it in a year. It's probably a 3-year process, but we'll have to put up money to do that. So I want everyone to be prepared that this is going to be expensive, and we can't do it unless we match the grant. So I don't know how much it is, because I don't know how much we can get, but $15 million is the most we can get in this first round of grants for the middle mile, last mile. The BEAD grant, which will be $812 million coming to the state, is a little more flexible and open. So I'll come to the Finance Committee and explain to them a little bit what we put our plan together. Right now, I can't tell you exactly how much it's going to cost, because I don't know how much coverage we're going to get. We have tried to work with Lincoln County and Moore County, and we think we can find a way that we can put Chestnut Ridge, which will be no one will ever get that connected unless we get it through this last mile program, and get Chestnut Ridge and Bedford, get that part of Lincoln and Moore, where they all collide up there in the hills, and it's so rural and it's going to be so expensive. This might be an opportunity to connect them. But I want to thank everybody for the work they've done. I'll give the commission a little more information on this, but that's kind of where we are. And thank you for 15, 16 weeks of hard work from everybody. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly need to be commended. Any other business announcements? May I have any announcements? We already know the horse show's gonna start next week, and Commissioner Anderson said all high school teams are playing.
Central plays at home Thursday night, Cascades at home Friday night, and Communities on the road at Lewis County Friday night. So
Okay.
everybody's playing.
Commissioner Benson.
Also, the 20th anniversary of the community clinic is September the 9th. Still available. Chad has some, so some of it's already is part of the program. Also, Miss Freda and Miss Massendale has written a book, Living Black History from Bedford County from 1820 to 2020. And on this evening at 4:30 to 5:30, they're at the First Baptist Church signing this book.
Good for them.
So it's going to be a great event. So we still have tickets and we can try to help you out. Please come.
Okay, any other? Okay, motion adjourned. So moved.
Meeting. Thank you. To order. Commissioner Maddox, would you mind saying a prayer for us?
Yes. Let's pray. Dear God, thank you for this wonderful opportunity to come before you. Lord, thank you for this weather. Lord, thank you for all the people that are represented here. Thank you for our county leaders, representatives. I pray that you continue to watch over the folks of this county. Lord, be with those that have lost loved ones. I pray that you would comfort them and give them peace. Lord, I pray that you give us wisdom and give us listening ears and discerning heart, Lord. And it's all this in your name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Roll call will be Jason is absent and the mayor. So we do have enough for a quorum. All right, the first item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of July 18th, 2023 Law Enforcement Committee, and I think Commissioner Maddox has some
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
amendment.
There's
to it.
there's just a small amendment. There was it was mentioned, it says, when asked by Commissioner Hooker, he noted the MRT program was still going strong, but that was actually me. I know some folks get Commissioner Hooker and I mixed up from time to
He
time.
looks much alike.
I know, right? But that was actually me that made that had that question. But that's the only amendment that I see.
I make a motion, we approve the minutes
All right, with that correction.
Yes, sir.
with the corrections, yeah.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
Thank you.
All in favor, say
Aye.
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 We do have the public comment period. If, like the rules and legislative, anytime you want to make a comment, we've always been open forum here. Raise your hand, we'll recognize you. It don't matter when or where. But if anybody wants, if anybody wants to say anything right now, you're welcome to, or anytime during the meetings. As long as you're
If they had
civil.
to fill out a form.
Just right on back. We're good. The first item as far as our reports will be animal control. I don't see him here, but we do have a copy of their report. Yeah,
I saw her and she is full boat with dogs.
yeah, I think they
They're
posted
full.
that they had
Yeah,
full house.
full house.
Next will be the sheriff's department report. We also have that enclosed.
Okay, the month of July. Some of you have this, some of you don't, but we patrolled at the Sheriff's Department 72,057 miles, which I believe is about 2,300 miles per day on patrol. There were 786 warrants served, 226 arrests made. I'll leave off the jail stuff because I have Lieutenant Cook here with me. 358 investigations, 283 traffic stops, 810 total. The 17th Judicial Drug Task Force, we had 28 investigations, 27 of them in Bedford County. 36 defendants, one firearm was seized, $3,264 in U.S. currency seized. Pretty much the same as always, marijuana, methamphetamines, powder cocaine, crack cocaine, 88 pills, which believed to be containing fentanyl or some fentanyl. Some heroin was confiscated. There was 13 previous convicted felons, 3 of whom are out on supervised parole that was investigated. That is pretty much theirs. As I say, I'll be glad to try to answer any questions you might have, whether it be jail or what. But since Lieutenant Cook is here, I'm going to let him do that part.
Sheriff, before you sit down, on this DTF report, do you know if the drugs y'all confiscated, were they brought here for resale, or is it small quantities, or not, or do you know?
Are drugs brought here to resale?
Yeah, like you said, they confiscated heroin, methamphetamines, all of it. Is that being shipped in here for resale, or distributed, or?
I would
for
assume.
use? I don't know. You know, are we talking like a truckload of it out here, and the dealers are getting it and selling it to the people?
Well,
or?
you know, some are more than others. There was one month they got about, thinking 4,000 pills, but that's not every month. I mean, sometimes it may be 100 pills or something, and it just fluctuates.
So, Sheriff, I guess, just to help me understand it, in regards to the arrest made, I know there was 226 arrests made, but how many of those, or is there a way to get a report that tells us of those arrests made, so many of those, or this number of those arrests involved drugs, no matter what drug it was? I'm just curious to that number.
Good question. I'm not sure if Lieutenant can answer or not. Many times arrests are made that could be, say, driving on, or reckless driving or something, then the investigation leads and drugs play into a part too.
Yes, sir.
So just to sit here and say which one of them are strictly drugs, or maybe which ones involve drugs, I'm sure there is. I don't know how much, would that be a big issue to try to do that? Okay.
I appreciate it, Sheriff. I would definitely appreciate that report. If
So
we could get
you
it on
would
a
like
monthly
to know
basis.
of the ones arrested, how many in some form or another were involved with drugs?
Right, yes, sir. Whether it was, I understand that many times the initial arrests may not be because of drugs, but maybe if drugs were uncovered. I'd like to know, there's just been a lot more, there's been a lot more talk out in the public in regards to drug activity in the county, and I'd just like to get a better handle on that in regards to my knowledge.
And I would venture to say, whatever the percentage is, I bet it wouldn't be any higher or probably any lower than any other county in the state of Tennessee. But as a matter of fact, I read one time, and Lieutenant, you disagree, let us know, but almost 100% of females that are in jail was due to
Yes.
drugs. And it's a high percentage of the males, but it's almost total on females.
Yes, sir. So is there a way that we can just, moving forward, just get that in the report monthly? Could we maybe have a line item that says
He's
of the
shaking it.
226?
He's shaking his head, yes.
Sure, please. Sure. Yeah, just to be totally transparent, I think my belief is in order for us to get ahead or help solve issues, we got to be aware of the issues. And so if we had a better understanding of what we were up against, we'd be able to help combat it so I definitely would appreciate that information, of the total arrests made, how many were for drugs, or how many drugs were uncovered during those investigations. And if I'm off base, somebody say we're off base, but I'd like to, I for one would like to know that information. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Lieutenant Cook, would you
Yeah.
like to comment on the jail standings?
I want to make sure I understand are you just wanting strictly drug charges or?
I think so. I mean, anything you can offer up to this committee in regards to drug activity, drug charges, as it pertains to Bedford County is sort of what I'm looking for.
Okay. I used to tell people that 85% of people incarcerated are in there for drug-related charges.
Mhm.
People looked at me like I was silly. And last year we went to, the state put on a program summit. And I went, and they had an administrator there from TDOC, and he said 95% of everybody in jail or in prison, in the state, anywhere really, but he was talking about the state of Tennessee, are in there for drug-related offenses. I think that kind of gives you an idea of the seriousness of the problem and why I have been so committed to trying to do what we can to help that. If you had mental health problems or you had a medical condition, you go to the doctor or you go to a professional and you get help, we don't stigmatize that the same way we do addiction. But it is exactly the same thing. There are very few families and very few people in this community who have not been touched by it in some way. A lot of people don't want to talk about it, but they know what I'm talking about. So I can get you, we can talk later, I'll get you whatever you need, but just about everybody in jail is in jail because of addiction. That's your answer. It's almost 100%.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I appreciate your genuine transparency, and I sense what you just said is the absolute truth. I still feel that in order for us to get ahead of, as a county, the sheriff's in charge of the county as it pertains to law enforcement. He's the man in charge. So it's his call to make on anything law enforcement related. But, and if we start to see that there's a bigger issue even than what we can see on the surface, then just maybe we can put together a small group to help identify opportunities as well as, and more importantly, the solution. Because I agree with you that addiction is a real thing. And your statement about, almost all or 100% or whatever of the folks incarcerated may be drug related, but maybe not. But I would just like to see the hard data. That way we can kind of start to just have productive, positive conversations instead of, not, and the sheriff obviously is doing, what he has to do. But I've been in conversations in the past where there's a lot of we think this or I think it's this way, or compared to other counties, we're here. I'd like to start seeing the real data and let the data drive the decisions in which we as a community make in order to prepare for better solutions.
Well, if you're interested, Pastor West may hate me for this, but Thursday night at 6 o'clock at Edgemont Church, the Drug Coalition of Bedford County is meeting, and they asked me to do a presentation. So I'm not trying to pitch this, but if you're interested, it might give you some insight into what we're trying to do. As far as MRT and programs in the jail and what the nonprofits, other than just what we're doing, but there's a lot of nonprofits in Bedford County that are doing the same thing every day. And they really don't get a lot of recognition. But if you're interested, I'm going to do a 1-hour presentation about what we're doing at MRT and programs at the jail.
I'm sorry to hold us up.
No, that's fine.
What time is that meeting?
6 p.m. at
On this
Edgemont,
Thursday?
Thursday, yeah.
And just another quick question. This is new to me as well. So Drug Coalition of Bedford County.
Yes, sir.
First I've heard of it.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. So how long has this been in existence? Is this like a drug task force type team or what?
No,
Is
Sir,
just
it's
a-
about 3 to 4 years in operation.
So
yeah.
is this in conjunction with the MRT
No,
program?
no.
It's
It's
totally
a
separate?
separate coalition.
No, I just got invited to it.
Okay.
It's, Pastor West chairs it. It's just some nonprofits. It's just information sharing and trying our best to do what we can.
Thank you, Lieutenant.
Okay. Before I leave, work crews saved the county $39,424 last month. Almost forgot the number.
That's a good thing.
Anything else?
Anything you wanted to say any more about the jail or population or anything?
No, nothing that I can think of. I will get with you later, Mr. Maddox,
Yes,
on
sir. Thank you.
what you want, and I'll put something together next month.
I enjoy our conversation.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Next on the report will be EMA report.
I don't have anything else to add to our report, but I will address the weather that we've been having. So we've been in a pattern that's more like a spring-type pattern, and that's fixing to change. But we've had some severe weather, a lot of rain, things like that. Luckily, we've not had that much damage. Bell buckle, war trace. Bell buckle got hit pretty hard with wind damage that first Monday. And I think we only had one residence that was hit by trees falling or things like that. Of course, a lot of you may have had power out and things like that. And a couple of days later, I heard that we saw the best light show since the 4th of July.
wreck fireworks, which is true. But luckily, we didn't have that much. So that pattern is going to change, hopefully, as we start to get a little bit cooler weather. Other than that, we're ready to help support the horse show that's coming up. Had our monthly meeting with all our public safety folks, and everything's coming together, and we should be good to go for that, which starts in a couple weeks. Other than that, anybody has any questions?
Any questions for EMA? Hearing none, thank you. Next will be juvenile detention.
I don't have anything additional to add to my report. Anybody have any questions?
Have any questions for juvenile detention?
Thank you.
Hearing none. All right, probation.
I do have something to add to the report, and this is basically what we've just been discussing. I don't know if you read the side of my report about the fingerprint drug screening device. I did actually bring the device to show you. This is a new device that's been developed in the UK and is finally making its way over to America. And my drug rep reached out to me, asked me if I wanted to run a trial basis on it. And I did. And we've tested 20 clients so far using a fingerprint drug screening device and our traditional urine screen. And we've had very good results. If they test positive on the fingerprint, they're testing positive on the urine screen. So we're thinking that we're going to move forward with this because it offers us a lot of flexibility. I can take this device to our offsite location. It allows non-gender screens. The slight negative to this is it only tests 4-panel, where our urine test tests 10-panel. But it tests the major players, the ones that we always see. The other 6 panels are very seldom do we get a positive screen on those. It tests opiates, methamphetamine, THC, and cocaine. And like I said, we're getting a lot of positive results using this device. I was able to take it, one of the DAs in the court system asked for a screen in court. I was actually able to take it over to the court and screen the individual for the court and got a positive result as well for that. So really excited about this moving forward. Just kind of a brief rundown on how it works is we ask the clients to wash their hands of any residue, and then immediately we have them fingerprint all 5 fingers on a little cartridge here. It's in this pouch. Then we push a little lever on this cartridge. It fills where they fingerprinted at. A little liquid fills that, and we immediately insert it in the base of this device. And it analyzes for 10 minutes, and then we'll have a result. Like I said, it's been great, and we're going to move forward with using this device. It analyzes the sweat and the oils that's in your fingertips. Clients are less likely to fool this device than they would the urine cup because, those have been around for a while. You have synthetic urine. They bring in fake pee. They try to drink a lot of water before they come to flush their system out. So all those techniques are negated by this device.
Commissioner Sandy.
There is a slight up cost to the testing cartridges. We're paying $5 a cup for the urine cups. These are 15. We do not plan to go away from the urine screen totally. These are for we always combat bladder shyness people say you get in there and they can't urinate in front of us. Another thing that it's going to combat is the clientele that come, you know, the last 10 minutes of the day, knowing that we're going to have to, you know, shut the place down and not be able to screen them and have to tell them to come back later where they'll prepare for a screen. In those situations, we can just go ahead and get a quick reading off of them. So we don't plan on this being the solution and us utilizing this device completely, but it's definitely a tool to help. And it will have some little bit of cost, but I think we'll be able to navigate that cost for our current drug screen budget. No, we're going to have only this one, but it is mobile. So at our off-site location, I plan on taking it over there because a lot of our clientele are starting to come there. And we do urine screens there as well, but this will help us better for the ones, like I said, the last minute.
Commissioner Hook?
Do you know the data of the accuracy rate that you got?
It's very similar. So far, we've had 100%, you know, if it tests positive here, because that's what we're in the test phase right now. So anytime we test one, we're doing both. So right now, we're at 100% accuracy between the two. I actually have this device picked up a positive where the urine screen didn't, and that's because they were trying to flush their system out with water, and it does dilute the sample.
Is that permissible in court? Is there enough data behind it that the court system will accept that?
It
as evidence?
is. I have been talking to the DAs about that because, of course, I want to get their blessing because it's a moot point if we can't trust these
Exactly.
results. But especially in the beginning, we're going to continue to do the urine screens as along with this. And another positive, which is kind of offsetting the cost a little bit, the company that's offering this is a different company that's offering, or that we get our drug screen supplies through currently. And they have urine cups that are cheaper than the ones that we're currently getting. So that'll offset that sum. Plus, they're able to test for more drugs in their urine screen cup than I can get currently. So fentanyl has always been a problem for us to screen for. It's not going to be a problem anymore.
Do you bring enough cards that as we walk out, you can check all of them?
I brought
Raise
two.
your hand or leave early, you know?
I brought 2 cartridges. If you wanted to see in action, just pick 2 and I'll screen
No,
them
we
right
don't,
now.
we don't want to hear your calls, sir.
Volunteer. How long does a urine test take? I'm sorry, were you talking? I'm sorry. Go.
I was just going to ask, how can you differentiate between someone who just touches, say, cocaine versus ingesting?
Okay, so when we test a client, we ask them to wash their hands of any residue, okay? So that's the first step in doing this. And then I'll open one out and show you the way that it works here.
Okay, test mark.
So this is the cartridge. And if I do it don't take nothing because it's actually reading the sweat and the oil in your fingers. Once I touch that area right there, we do all 5 fingers. When I push this little cartridge in, it releases this liquid that fills, and that's what it's testing is the liquid that's mixing with your sweat and oil. Okay, and then I don't mind, I'm clean, so.
We hope.
I know it's gonna be bad if it turns up.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see how that works out.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave before 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So then we just input it in here. We would slide the cartridge right here
Yeah.
and wait 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then we actually get a printer with this.
Oh,
So we can print the results out and attach it to their paperwork or take it over to the court if the court sent them over for the screening.
You said that takes 10 minutes. How long does a normal urine test take?
Normal urine test usually takes us about 2 hours because the client can't pee, no.
Yeah.
Usually we send them out to the lobby and they have to drink water and,
Yeah.
but if they can provide urine in a cup pretty quickly, it usually takes 2 to 3 minutes.
I mean, I think that's great technology. I think that's an
Pretty cool.
advancement, you know?
Yeah.
The only other thing I wanted to say, if I may, is I just wanted to say thank you again for your report. This is a very good report. So
Thank you.
very well laid out and easy to follow. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Let us know how your results turn out.
Yeah.
He's leaving.
Yeah, he's leaving.
Say good
Now,
night.
that being said, we need a motion to approve the reports as presented.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion and second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any other reports? Old business? Any new business to come? I think we've gotten all the announcements. I don't know of any other to add.
Horse show next week, is that right?
Week after next,
Week after next. Well,
23rd.
starts a week
No, it
from
starts,
tomorrow.
starts a week from tomorrow, right?
Starts on a Wednesday night. If people
Yeah.
don't know, it starts on a Wednesday night outdoors.
The 23rd of
So,
August. I mean,
23rd. I think you're
23rd
right.
of August.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It
August,
starts
yeah.
next Wednesday.
Wednesday night.
You know,
Outdoors.
Mr. Chairman, I want to give credit to the sheriff's department. No matter what the event, no matter where you go in the county, he always has somebody there. And so, you know, you can go to any event in Bedford County and feel protected. So I just wanted to say kudos to the sheriff's office.
Right. With no further announcements, we need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All right.
Go ahead and call the Courthouse and Property Committee meeting to order. If everybody will bow your heads, please. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for the many blessings you've given us. Please be with Adam Thomas's in-laws and his father-in-law as he recovers, and give the doctors the wisdom they need to take care of him and help put his healing hand on him. Please be with us as we make the decisions for the county. In Jesus' name, amen. Adam's not here. His father-in-law was in a really bad accident and fractured his skull, so everybody keep him in your prayers. That's where he is tonight. The first thing on the agenda is the approval of the July 18th Courthouse and Property Committee minutes. Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, next would be public comment. If anyone in the public has anything to say, please raise your hand. Okay. Next is planning and zoning. He stepped out, didn't he? Well, everybody has their report. Does anybody have any comments on that, on the report? Fire department?
You have a copy of my report. I don't have anything to add to that report. And I hope you received my June report. I emailed it. I forgot about it evidently, so
I did.
hopefully you all received that.
I did.
And over the next couple of months, our reports may, I don't know if I'll get them to you or not. We're in the process of changing software companies, and right now I think I don't know, we got 50 hours worth of training just before we can even start using it. And sometimes it makes me do the same thing over and over. I don't know.
A learning curve.
It's a learning curve. But we will be able to generate the reports, hopefully better reports on what we actually do. It doesn't auto-generate these reports, so maybe it'll get them out on time.
Does anybody have any questions for Commissioner Thomas? Okay, thank you. GIS report?
Don't really have much to add to the written report, unless there are any questions.
He is.
Yeah.
But he's having to get what we need.
Yeah, which is interesting because it points out sort of one of the difficulties you have in GIS is it's only as good as the data you can get your hands on. And so there was a map where I really wanted them to, it was obviously done in GIS software, and I wanted them to give me the actual GIS data, and they wouldn't. They just gave me basically the graphic of the map, and so I had to kind of make it work.
Well,
And
it sounds like-
it would have worked a lot better if I'd have had the GIS data, but you have to kind of work with what you can get your hands on.
Right. It sounds like you had to deal with a lot of stuff with social media, so it sounds like you
Yeah,
handled
yeah.
that pretty well.
Yeah, that was
That's
that
never
was sort of
easy.
interesting because, but the whole deal with the because it was a thread about trash, and yet
Right.
and yet the word trash was what was triggering Facebook, and the kind of the satisfying thing though was that one of the first people that complained about it was the person that actually figured out what was going on and
That's awesome.
Vindicated me. I was not going through and hiding people's comments
That
because
can be
there
frustrating.
are court decisions that specifically prohibit us from doing that. There are some things that relate to government use of social media to where we have to allow free discussion. So.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for John? Okay. Thank you. Okay, IT report. Whoop, I skipped over codes, didn't I? Sorry, I'll come back to you.
So you have my report. We're doing some skills training. It's listed in the report, talks about that. We got a grant. We're actively working with the state of Tennessee for the cybersecurity grant, that Homeland Security cybersecurity grant. The state's going to be pushing down some services for local governments. Some of those we already have in place, but I'm our district rep for that. That's 6 counties, and so we're working with the state on that, and that should be the first round of that. It's a several-year process, but they're going to be rolling out some cybersecurity for some things for local governments, small cities, and larger cities and the counties as well. So we've got that going on. We have some software deployments we're working with the building codes and planning and zoning on their software deployment situation. Same with the fire department. They have a new software that they're going to be using in their office. Same with the juvenile detention center, and in conjunction with the juvenile court system, they're rolling out a new software. We have, of course, the Microsoft Exchange Online service that we're looking at deployment very soon, e-agent, which we're doing away with a couple of old legacy applications at the sheriff's office and getting rid of those. We're working with the Veterans Department on deploying a database so that they can log more of their information for their veterans out there. We've got some camera system upgrades that we're in the process of getting done. A lighting quote that we're looking into for the courthouse proper and the annex building as well, exterior lighting. We're looking at, we're in the process right now of upgrading our virtualization servers to handle the load of all of those new softwares, which require a server license, each one of them. So we've got MFA deployment that we have to do this year, on top of about 150 plus tickets that we're logging. That doesn't include all of them. We get a lot of participation from the employees, but sometimes they don't send a ticket in. And if we're going nonstop all day long, it's hard to actually attend meetings and plan in 8 hours and fix all the problems that come with storms. I mean, we've lost probably $10,000 worth of equipment this past couple of weeks due to lightning strikes. We've replaced them same day and sent in RMAs on the switches and devices that have been electrocuted and they no longer function. So we're just really busy. At some point, it makes me wonder if I'm fully staffed the way that I need to be, because we've got so much growth taking place, so many projects to try to undertake this year. And I often find myself doing help desk tickets too still. So it's tough to balance, doing the best that we can. I would like to recognize Austin Defoe. He's really worked hard the past few years that he's been an employee at Bedford County to try to match and in a lot of cases exceed my abilities, so that we have somebody that if something were to happen to me, we have a human that could jump right in there and take over. So we're just doing our best, open to any questions that you have anytime. You can reach me anytime. Commissioners, if you have any problems, hope you know how to get in touch with me.
I think you're doing a great job as always. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you.
Okay. Sorry I skipped over you. Amy, codes next.
Any questions on my report? Anyone? I do have a few things to add to it. Next week, I have to go to court for some schools tax collection. We had about $20,000 that we turned over to the collections attorney. So that's the first time in a while that we've been to court for that. So he's taken about half of those in a first grouping, and we'll see how that turns out. But hopefully we'll get some money that was owed to us. Additionally, the state had a House bill and a Senate bill that was passed that came into law on July 1st. There's been a lot of talk about it. It was an energy bill. So they changed their standards for the state, and that does impact the county in that they changed the wording that we can never be more restrictive than what the state has adopted. But there's been a lot of talk and confusion because the state has not yet published on their website, like where you go and look and say what they're following. The only thing out there is the actual bills that were adopted, and just the language of it has made the confusion, but we are going to remain on our 2015 energy standards that we currently have, because they're not more restrictive than the state's adoption of the 2018 energy standards. I did have a note in there about one of our vehicles, our inspection vehicles, and after I made my report, it was in the shop for about 3 weeks. It's got a lot of miles on it, and it broke down again after I made my report. It did have to sit at a job site overnight, but we were able to avoid any towing fees and got it back running the next day. But that is something that might be coming up as a replacement in the future. Okay.
Does anybody have any questions for Amy? I appreciate the report. It's always easy to read. Thank you. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve all reports.
Motion to approve. Second.
Okay, all in favor? All opposed? Okay, for old business, I've got several little things to kind of update everybody on. I've talked to the mayor and I've talked to Robert Daniel, and some of you may be aware and some of you may not that the RFQ was put out for architect services, but like there has not been a contract signed, anything like that. But they are really saying in order for us to get some data gathering, they need to go forward with the architect services to go ahead and start getting some preliminary drawings to see how much the cost will be, to see, so that we'll be able to make a good decision as a commission on whether or not we want to proceed with it or not.
This is on which project?
For the juvenile detention center, I'm sorry. I just assumed everybody, isn't that terrible? I'm acting like a girl I work with. The juvenile detention center, RFQ for architect services has already been put out, but they have not chosen anyone. But of course, we already have Klein Sweeney too. But we have some preliminary drawings already, and we would need to get them to go ahead. I mean, basically, from talking to the mayor and Robert, there's been an advisory committee in place for the juvenile detention center for several years now, and they've been meeting, with the judge and with Kelly and all the people that are experts in that area, and they're wanting to go ahead and proceed with in finance. Robert was going to go ahead and start getting the architect. He just kind of wanted everybody to know about it, to go ahead and getting all the drawings together so that we can actually get some cost together so that we really can make educated decisions.
Okay, so just to clarify where we're at, because we kicked it to finance just to get some ideas of what we're wanting, and so this is just that process of getting us information.
Correct. Yeah, and it'll all come back to this committee and then eventually to the commission to be voted on once the decision's to be made.
Liberty and Thomas all handled through school board.
Correct.
We don't have anything to do.
Correct. Now, there is another piece to this. The other thing we need to consider is, if we want, one of the other things that we have in our courthouse and property for us to be able to look at, I just provided everybody on this committee, and I've got a few extras if anybody wants one. It has the square footage and the basically estimated square footage for a metal building, how we talked about we're going to do something with surplus. And this is just with current numbers and current economic status, the way everything is right now, this is approximately what it would cost. Jeff Sweeney was consulted on this, and he came up with this estimate here.
This is extremely,
Yeah,
a lot
for
higher
surplus,
for a metal building and surplus. I mean,
Right.
You're talking $40,000 for roll-up doors. So,
Yeah.
They're
that's-
wanting it where he said they were wanted to make it big enough where a big truck could go in it to be able to move things from place to place, is the way I understood it. And Jeff will probably be here later at another date this is just information from what.
So is this his estimation, or is this a bid?
No, it is totally, it's an estimate. It's totally an estimate. Just so that we would kind of know what we were up against. I mean, that doesn't mean like we have to do everything that's in here. It's just, this was his estimate of what he thought we would have to have.
I think we probably need to sit on this for a little bit and ponder, so.
Well, and down below it, it says if you decide to go to a pole barn with wood post, it would save you $10,000 to $20,000, but the life of the building would be reduced, because this is for a 50-year structure. But it's just for information only, is really all it is. And the other thing was the old workhouse. One of the things the mayor, matter of fact, he just sent me a text about it. If we wanted to sell it, then we would have to surplus it, and we need to start discussing what we're going to do with the old workhouse.
I think before we make any decisions on that, we've got to get a little better understanding as to what this is.
Might as well keep the workhouse if we're gonna do that.
I mean, I know of many people that have built metal buildings, and this seems extremely high.
Do you remember what long ago the appraisal on the workhouse was? Was it 150, 200,000?
I think it was more than that.
Yeah,
On the
it was
tax
200
card. It was
287 or
200. Yeah, it was
270.
two something.
Okay.
It's about equal.
Magic, it matches exactly.
And I think that was one of the reasons that they went ahead and come up with this, so we could make some educated decisions on what we're going to do with surplus. If we want to keep it where it's at, and, or if we want to move it. And so,
I think I'd like to make, at least look at some different companies and look at some different options, because, I mean, that's a lot for a metal
this
building.
hasn't been bid out. This was just.
No, I get it.
Yeah,
But
it was
if
just.
that's what it is, then we have to really decide whether that's what we want to do.
Right.
And I'd like to remind the courthouse and property, the surplus brings in, I hope I'm not wrong, but $100 and something thousand a year now that we've got the real system down. It has just plummeted. So just something to stick in your back of the mind. Two or
Right.
3 years we'd have it paid for.
One of the things I know that the mayor had discussed is that he would like to see the surplus get down lower than what, so it wouldn't be such a large amount to be housed at one time. So, I mean, these are just all decisions we're going to have to come up with in the near future. So it's just really for informational purposes only. And yeah, right. So anyway, that was just provided to us, so I just wanted to share that as it came down. The other thing is the permanent building for the Ag Center for the Fair Board. When I talked to Commissioner Anderson, he said he could get us more detailed information just for us to look at it in September. So if y'all wanted to defer that to September to continue to look at that so that we can send that on to the commission, pretty much to defer it till September.
Yeah, motion to defer that to
Second.
the September meeting.
Because I thought we needed a little more information before we sent it to the commission for a vote. Okay. Anybody else have any other old business? I'm sorry. Okay. Okay. Go right ahead. Go ahead and make a motion if you want to defer
Motion
it
to defer till September meeting, the agricultural board, permanent building.
for the Fair Board. Okay. All in favor? All opposed? Thanks for that help.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay. Any other old business? Okay. Any new business? Okay. Any announcements? I believe we've already made them with the other ones. But
Well, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
We have a Cascade football game this Friday against Moore County. It's a big rivalry for us, so I think that a lot of people in the county. Also, the Shelbyville Central High School is going to have a football game against Siegel, and that is their Bedford County Training School honoring night. And for the people that don't know, the Bedford County Training School is the fourth best high school football program that ever existed. It was here in this county. It was an all-black school. It was housed over on Deary Street, and they were a couple NFL players came out of that, and we still have members that work at the county. Works at the school board, James Claiborne, that was a member of that team, and it was just an amazing thing. And so people, Thursday night, they're going to honor that, and many members on that team that are still alive are going to be honored at that game, and I think that's just really neat to have one of the best high school programs that's ever existed that was right here in Bedford County, so.
It's all in the book. Come
Read more about it.
in the history book. That's right.
It goes to the clinic.
Okay. And don't forget about the horse show, August 23rd, I believe, to September 2nd. Any other announcements? Okay, I'll